Here we go. A mother, so-called, allegedly abandons her child at McDonald's after passing out on prescription drugs. I have been flooded with calls about this from you. You want to know why this is happening, how it began, and how we end it. So I'm attacking pill abuse head-on with two moms whose kids died from it. And later, a mother finds out her baby boy is alive 8 years after he was kidnapped. She tells me here about the misery and the miracle. Let's get started. Thanks for joining us. We are live tonight. Police say a Florida mom abandoned her son, that's right, left him alone in a McDonald's play area while she sat in her car and took pills. There she is. She had allegedly passed out, reportedly next to her prescription drugs, including oxycodone, that's an opiate pain medication, and alprazolam, which is Xanax, a Valium-like drug. She was charged with child neglect and 2 counts of prescription pill possession. And you've heard me talk about this pill thing a lot. I've brought it up. Whitney Houston gave me another chance to sort of bring it out. You seem to be interested in this topic, and it's something I've got to keep harping on until we do something about it. Here's what you're saying on Facebook. Robert says, benzos and pain pills equals chaos, death, financial destruction every time. She should get off those filthy pills, and then we'll see what happens. Janice writes, this is a no-brainer. Heck yeah, she should lose the kids. And Gwen in Florida says she'll get a slap on the wrist. Joining me to discuss this, Congresswoman Mary Bono Mack, and a mother who knows the heartache that pills can cause, and criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. Mark, another Florida story. Adam Carolla and I used to have a game we called Germany or Florida. Whenever anything intense was going on, we'd say, was it Germany or Florida? This is Florida. And the question I have to you to start off is, should this McDonald's mom lose her kids?
I would say in the short term, I think that she has to. The child obviously is in imminent danger if the mother's driving while impaired, if she's physically present but not emotionally or spiritually caring for the child's needs. The plan, I think, should be for reunification once she deals with her potential addiction, after detox, after rehab, after she's in recovery and she turns her life around.
And Mark, you bring up an interesting point here. I'm not sure what the law is like in Florida, but a lot of states, people aren't aware that driving under the influence does not just mean alcohol. It can be any substance, right?
I've prosecuted and defended many people who, whether it be marijuana or in this case opiates, find themselves swerving all over the road or passed out like she was. As long as you're behind the wheel, you're just as guilty as if you were driving.
And I'm certain, again, listening to those Facebooks, and we're going to get some calls in just a second, that my viewers are outraged by this, but I feel sad about this. Mary, you know a lot about prescription drug abuse. Your own family has seen this. As a lawmaker, is there enough awareness in the Congress even to do something about this?
I wish I could say yes, but no. There's not enough awareness within the Congress, I think within law enforcement. I think this case with this woman in her car in Florida is a great example. People don't even recognize this is happening next to us. It's happening in every family. Congress needs to wake up, and a number of us are doing our best to raise this to the forefront of issues. And I'm with you. It's a very sad story.
It's a sad thing, and so many people think because it's available by prescription, it's prescribed by a doctor, it must be safe. And I keep saying, I'm going to say it, which is that my patients today, addicts die of pill overdoses, almost without exception. I haven't lost a patient the old-fashioned way from a cocaine or heroin overdose in 5 years. It's pills.
Right. No, it's true. And I think especially for young kids, I think that they start with the pills thinking, we know to stay away from methamphetamine, to stay away from cocaine, so we're going to play with this. Those are bad pills. Bad people do bad pills, but good people get pills from the doctor, right? Especially heroin. And what's really tragic is that so many of these good kids start off down this path, and they start with the OxyContin. They can't afford the expensive hit any longer, so they move to heroin.
Right, that's why they go to heroin, because it's cheaper.
Right, and as you know, more Americans now die from these overdose deaths than car accidents any longer. So
I mean, to say that again, let's hang a lantern on that. More Americans, young Americans, who normally the highest sort of death rate is from accidents, now has been exceeded by prescription drug deaths.
That's right.
It's incredible. Dan, we got a phone call, I believe. Is that right, Dan? Is that your name? Janet, I beg your pardon. Janet in Texas, you're online. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Drew.
Hey, Janet.
I lost my daughter to prescription pill abuse about 9 years ago. She was 27 years old, and she left behind a daughter who had just turned 6, and we have adopted.
Let me ask you this, Janet.
Yes.
Are you angry? Are you outraged? I mean, I could go all day on how sad this is, but doesn't it start to make you angry at a certain point?
Very, very angry, because one of the doctors that was fulfilling her prescription or giving them to her has now been put in jail.
Oh,
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's a good news. That's the good news story. So she could go in and get whatever she wanted. It was like a pill mill, right?
Right. As long as you would pay an office visit, you could get anything you wanted from him.
Janet, I am so sorry. I got to tell you, not only am I sorry for your loss, I'm sorry that my profession as a physician did your daughter wrong, or did you wrong, and I'm sorry about that.
It is, and I'm wondering, is there any way that pharmacies can be put like in a network sort of situation where when you go to one pharmacy, and if you get another prescription, you go to...
You're asking a great question. This is Mary's area. Go ahead, Mary. Tell her about that.
Well, that's a great question, and I also am very sorry for your loss, and I appreciate that you're speaking out. There are a lot of efforts across the country for what we call prescription drug monitoring programs. This would give real-time information to physicians and pharmacists that can simply kind of track where, what we're calling... what do we call it? Doctor shopping.
Well, what gets in the way of it? Is the HIPAA law getting in the way of it?
No, it's
not. People can't share the information?
It's budgets. And it is a focus from lawmakers that this is happening. And this could be a very effective tool. I think doctors they would see this as something that would kind of help with a holistic effort in treating their patient if they could see.
Well, God knows, Mary, I got to tell you something. Should I call you Congresswoman Mary? Or
no, yes, Dr. Drew, Congresswoman Mary. It is.
I feel like Mary's not. It's too casual.
Great.
But I'll tell you what. As a physician, I certainly get just reams of information from insurance companies about how I could be prescribing a cheaper medication for my patient. They seem to know that.
Do they?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Well, no, because I want to know why a student or a young kid who's getting his wisdom teeth out gets 30 days worth of Vicodin.
That's a wholly different problem. That is that doctors are way too casual about these medication. That we typically.
But you're saying they'll tell you to go for the cheaper ones.
Right. They'll say they will literally send a letter back saying, "You sure you want the Vicodin? Wouldn't you rather have the hydrocodone for this patient?" Literally. You'll get that.
Not only 10 days, but 30 days still.
You'll get whatever you prescribe, but you will not get any information on what else might that patient be getting.
It's
Jackie,
broken.
It's broken. Well, please, don't even start me. Jackie in Kentucky, what's your question?
Hi, Dr. Drew. I've been on pills since the age of 16. I'm now 30. I would love to get off them, but I can't afford a good rehab to go to.
Oh, boy. So hold on. So you've been on pills since you were a teenager. How'd you get on pills in the first place?
Just the area that we live in.
What does that mean?
They're just everywhere.
So you didn't even have to go to a doctor? You just got them from your peers?
No, you can buy them anywhere.
How did you know at 16 the pills are what you wanted?
I didn't.
Your friends were doing them.
They was just friends was doing them. I was doing them. And then I got hooked on them, and
So, Mary, this is another part of this, which is that there's not resources available to treat. I mean, somebody who's been hooked on opiates since they were 16 needs months of structured treatment. Right. Now, by the way, Jack, let me tell you something. Before I let you answer that, Mary, I'm sorry. And Jack, you can find a sober living somewhere for about $800 a month. That sometimes even includes food. If you can swing that, if you can swing $800 a month, you should be able to find some help. But boy, you got to really want to do this because it's not going to be very comfortable. So, Mary, I've answered that question. I'm sorry.
This is a great question too, and it's again recognizing that addiction is a disease. Here's clearly somebody who's asking for help and wants to find it. First, there are a number of facilities who have sort of scholarships available. I think you should call them and see what is out there. I represent the Betty Ford Center, and I know that they work very hard at making sure that there are scholarships for people to attend the Betty Ford Center if they need to. But that aside, I have a friend who's here with me tonight in the green room, and it's Stacy, and she's working very hard at raising this very issue.
Yeah.
We raise a lot of charitable money for breast cancer, for Alzheimer's. Why aren't we raising charitable money to help people like this?
And not only people like this, but the number one cause of death of young people. I'm gonna hold up this picture. This is a picture of a young man who was lost. His mom's gonna be in here in the next segment. Let me see if you can see that. So you get this is a beautiful young kid. These are the kinds of losses we're suffering because of pills. Mark, you and I rarely really talk about this particular topic on this show. I know this is something you feel deeply about. You want to just ring in here before I go to break?
Yeah, I'm seeing, unfortunately, in the criminal justice arena, younger and younger defendants that I'm defending who started so young with these highly addictive pain pills, some of them innocently enough, mothers also who have gotten addicted because they had root canal and they started, and all of a sudden it fixed a hole in their soul. There needs to be more, as we've discussed, more resources put towards treating these people who want treatment and help.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and be outraged by the mom falling asleep in the car and the kid being endangered. That's addiction. Thanks, Mark. 2 sons dead from prescription overdoses, 2 mothers heartbroken. I've introduced you to one of the sons here. That was his picture, their stories, your questions coming up. We are continuing to talk about prescription pill deaths. Joining me, 2 moms, Jody Barber and Sylvia Melkonian. They lost their sons to overdose on pills. Oh my gosh, I almost don't know where to start with this stuff because I mean, seeing you ladies and knowing what you went through and having struggled with my patients and lost patients, just like you guys lost sons, it gets a bit overwhelming. What medication, Jody, particularly got your son?
Jared had 5 pills from the doctor that I was taking him to get help.
For addiction?
Yeah, because I found him nodding off. And in 3 months.
Wait, Jody, hang on a second. You were taking him to a doctor to be treated for addiction?
Yes.
And he gave him the pills that he eventually died of. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do. I didn't know that part of the story. I have grave concerns about my peers and my profession and what we give patients, and particularly when we claim we're treating addiction. But for people at home, you don't have to go through this. The one message is if somebody is an addict, do not put pills in their mouth. They can take them for 5 to 7, maybe 10 days after withdrawal, for withdrawal. But if there's anything else going in their mouth after that, it has to be done extremely cautiously, with very skilled hands. And he just took the pills all at once or something. And
I was monitoring him for 3 months, and I was giving him what I believed what the doctor, said was going to help him. And he put him on Cymbalta as well as Klonopin. And then Jared's anxiety became worse towards the end, and now he says he can take 2 Klonopin. So now I'm giving him 1 in the morning he asked for, and he asked for 1 in the evening. So he also, 3 days before Jared passed away, was given, the only visit I did not walk into with him, he gave him handfuls of samples of Seroquel, and he was told to take 3 to 4 at bedtime.
That's all typically okay. There's something more going on.
Jared wasn't psychotic, and
No, but Seroquel is good for withdrawall. It is. We use it all the time. Something's wrong with that story. There's something. The Klonopin is the culprit, I think. And you're going to say?
I'm curious. One of the problems too we're seeing is that the autopsies that are done on these people who are dying aren't necessary. It's not conclusive as to what is in their system.
I completely agree with that. I've actually had arguments with pathologists where I knew what was going on. Literally with a guy with tracks on his arm, and the pathologist going, he was just a recreational heroin addict, just using that particular day. I mean, he took a little too much. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, that's people, the pathologists have to understand what addiction is too.
I talked to the head of ONDCP and others about this, the head of CDC, because we need to know, and I think here's a mother clearly who wants answers as to what went wrong in this case.
Yes, I would like to know, because something's wrong with that whole story. Something's not, it's not all adding up for me.
Yeah, because my son wasn't the same the last 2 weeks of his life from these pills. He was crazy. He jumped out of the car when it was moving, and so
something's up.
Yeah.
And Sylvia, what did you experience?
Well, my son, he was 17 years old, and he had Opana and Valium,
which is a very powerful opiate and a Valium.
I had never even heard of Opana. I was completely shocked. I'm thinking, where in the heck did he ever get Opana from? And it's taken, a long time. He died about 1.5 years ago, so it's taken about 1.5 years for me to kind of investigate where did he get it from.
These are such beautiful kids. Yeah. I mean, these are the best and the brightest being taken out.
And he was captain of the football team. He was very excited to go to college. He was, he loved his friends in the future. I mean, I don't know how Opana ever got in his hands. Well, I know that his friends, were going to Dr. Singh. and a lot of people that he knew were going to Dr. Singh, and somebody must have given it to him.
But a kid that age taking Opana is ridiculous.
Why,
unless he was recovering from a massive surgery or something for a couple of days. Exactly. Crazy. Let's go to a call. I believe I have Lisa on the phone. Is Lisa still available for us? Hi, Lisa. What's going on?
Hi, Dr. Drew.
Hey.
Just like your guests that you have on tonight, my 18-year-old daughter and our entire family are one of the many victims of the prescription pill epidemic. And Brandy passed away a year ago on March 8th as your guest from an Opana pill. And as they crush it and snort it. And from start to finish, 18 months, from the first time she tried prescription drugs illegally to the day that she passed away a year ago. And the majority of that time spent working in staying clean and sober. I mean, the majority of that 18 months, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
It's shocking.
Shocking.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, these ladies here would agree with you. The speed and the fate and the lethality.
The same night. The same night. He fell asleep.
Yeah.
And in fact, he was at home and with his brother and my ex-husband, and they didn't notice anything wrong with him. They couldn't tell anything was wrong with him. And he ended up just going to bed and not waking up in the morning.
I'll remind you, Whitney Houston goes in the bath and stops breathing. I mean, that's how this happens.
There was no signs. We couldn't tell anything.
You said you wanted people to really be hyper vigilant about looking for drugs, and you were actually one of those moms, right?
Yeah, you know what? My son, my 17-year-old son, never had a problem with drugs. My older son has had a problem with it. And so I was always very nervous about my older son, but not my younger one. In fact, my younger one would say, I'll never do that, Mom. I've seen what you've gone through with, our brother. I would never, ever do that.
Sylvia, I'm going to have to interrupt you and have to continue that story when we get back. Now, obviously, our viewers' opinions matter, so we're going to get more of those comments and calls up next, and really pay tribute to all the best and brightest that have been taken down by this. Be right back. We are live tonight, and I'm still hammering about the deadly problem of prescription drug abuse. Now, we asked you guys for photos of loved ones who had died from this epidemic, and the response was overwhelming. So behind me are going to be the sons, mothers, brothers, and friends who have succumbed to this condition as we continue this conversation. I want to, however, read to you something that one of our viewers, Loretto DeLustro, I hope that's how you pronounce your name, wrote about her son, John, whose picture you're going to see there. He died of respiratory failure January 3rd, 2011, so this is a relatively fresh wound, leaving 3 broken-hearted sisters and mother, forever young, forever handsome, forever 27. It brings it home. I mean, it's so painful. And Mary is sitting here cogitating about what it is she's going to do to try to tackle this problem. It's complicated.
Well, it's complicated. First, we have to raise awareness with everything, and I thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because as we're saying, I don't know how you train a parent. How do you look for this? It's not alcohol. It's not marijuana. You can't do the sniff check. It's much more insidious than that. And you start by talking to your kids and having a very frank discussion about how deadly these pills are.
How dangerous it is. Doesn't matter if a doctor prescribed it or not, particularly if you have a family history of addiction or alcoholism. And Sylvia, you were starting to tell us about what lengths you would go to try to check for pills.
Well, and I would, my sister's a principal and she's a teacher, and she would tell me, you've got to not only look in their backpacks and in their rooms, but you need to actually take off the electrical panels, look in the roof panels. I mean, these kids really are starting to hide things, and they're so clever with places where I would never even imagine to look. And even within their toiletries, it looks like they have a deodorant bottle, but really there's pills inside. So I mean, they get to be very, very sneaky, and you have to be that sneaky too, because you can't.
And people are afraid to do any checking on their kids. Not only do you have to check, you have to be super hyper vigilant. I want to read you something from James. He wrote us. He's a Facebook. It says, please discuss the dangers of benzodiazepine. This drug is unique in that withdrawals can last for years after your final pill. I know, I'm going through it. And I specifically wanted to bring up James's point of view here, because we've been talking a lot about painkillers, and every time we have these conversations, but the benzodiazepines, the Valium-like drugs, the Klonopin, Librium, Ativan, the sleeping pills, they are a big culprit. They are no doubt what contributed to Whitney Houston's death. And he's right. The withdrawal can go on for easily 12 months after you get strung out on those. For a few months, it's horrible. The misery, the anxiety, the sleeplessness. And if doctors aren't vigilant that that's what they're treating, they'll give more medicine. Right. It's really a cunning, baffling condition, Mary. I mean, it's tough.
No, it is. I mean, you can even take that to antibiotics. You need the medical profession, and I'm, as you know, the daughter of a teaching doctor, and I don't want to tell them how to practice medicine, but it is to the point now where we say, come on, we have to have a change in our thinking in the medical profession. I think if they have more education, perhaps
let me take an alternative approach. Maybe we empower physicians to say more, teach them how to say no to antibiotics, no to pills, no to benzodiazepines, that we're doing our patients a service when we say no to them, and empower the doctors. Patients get angry when you say no. Believe me, they don't come back again. Right. Ladies, I want to thank you for sharing the stories. Mary, thank you for the hard work. I'm so grateful. Next, prescription pill abuse, killing kids, of course, and I'm answering more of your questions. Again, we're taking that topic, but we're also going out into other areas. So if you have questions about this really pandemic that is taking out the young, the best.
Sample 6-pack. Shipping is free.